Photobox, and he's going to talk to us about how to create a culture that embraces failure. Coming up, Jody.
Thank you.
Okay, let's get going. It's 2009. The rest of my team and the European leadership team at eBay have been skiing all morning. I have got those horrible feelings inside because I've got to explain to the leadership team of eBay how I have created the media category. We did something really, really bold. There we go. We introduced 0 shipping fees across the media category. Strategically, we're going up against Amazon. This is an important moment. But unfortunately, buyers are going away. Sellers have started a rebellion, and we've lost hundreds of thousands of pounds. And so I explain all of this to all of my peers and the leadership team. And the only thing that's going on I can see in their eyes is they're really happy they are not standing where I am standing right now. They ask a couple of questions that further dig me into the hole I'm already in. I try and explain what's going on. And then the head of Europe for eBay, he stands up on the end and he says, I want more of this. More big swings with individuals who are accountable for those swings. Changes the mood of the meeting. But actually, for me, it changed fundamentally how I thought for the next few weeks. And I reflected on that. What was it that changed? And this is all going to be about driving disruption. We had done something really disruptive. But as a result of it going wrong, I just wanted to close down. I was trying to mitigate risk. So it got me thinking, what is it that we need here? Why can some people drive disruption? Others aren't going to be able to do that. And essentially got to this idea of safety. If you feel safe, you keep making big hits. And as a result of that intervention, I came back with the team with a really bold proposal still to solve this fundamental issue that we had around our shipping fees in the media category. Then I was like, well, what's safety about? How do you feel safe? It's certainly not about a job for life or getting a nice, friendly email every day. It's about trust. It's about the fact that you trust your team trusts you, you've got a good relationship with the boss, and that there's trust across all of this area. And if any of you have read recently $1 Trillion Coach, this is a great book. It's all about Bill Campbell, this seminal guy from Silicon Valley who was a coach to the Google team, to the Apple team, to eBay, to a number of other places. And there's a quote in there from Eric Schmidt, the chairman of Google, that talks about excellent teams at Google had psychological safety. And it basically talks about managers having their back. And so I was like, OK, safety's a big thing. It's about trust. What are the component parts of trust? How do we even discuss trust in an organization where we're all about our OKRs, we're all about our strategies, but when you're trying to lead a team, how do you create trust? Then I'm at this offsite in Salt Lake City, and this amazing woman, as a coach, says, I've got a formula for trust. And if you're anything like me, if someone tells you they've got a formula, and you're kind of analytical, you get a bit excited because you can break it down. And she shared this formula with me for trust. And I'm going to share it with you today. You can analyze the relationships in your life, and you can analyze your team. And she talked through 4 components, some of which are entirely obvious. Others were like, I see now. First of all, reliability. It's that sense. Is this person always 20 minutes late for the meeting? Are they the person who throws you in front of the bus when they're presenting to the CEO? Or can you rely on them in those moments of need? So reliability is a fundamental component, and we spend a lot of time trying to build that. Next up, credibility. This is what we spend all of our time doing, our professional qualifications. Are you an engineer's engineer? It's the quality of your pitch book. How smart are you at the whiteboard? We invest so much time trying to get credibility, to get the next job, to be given the big new role, whatever it might be. That kind of makes sense. But then she talked about another component, which was like, yes, intimacy, which is a strange-sounding thing to put in a trust equation. But actually, when you begin to kind of unpack that, it's about being vulnerable. It's about being human, and it's about being authentic. Things we are beginning to talk about in a kind of professional environment. With the first two, you can be a highly credible robot. You add the third one, and you become a human that people can believe in and people are going to be able to trust. And then there's a final factor here, which is a divide-by function, very powerful, which is about self-orientation. If you're only in it for yourself, it doesn't matter how good those three are, people don't trust you. And you can think about people in your life, you can think about politicians or business leaders. You have to be able to show that you care and you're going to do things for others, not just for yourself. And so this equation really got me thinking, and it's been a kind of basis for how I've thought about cultures in organizations ever since. And so what I'm going to do is explore that a little bit with you. You can think about it at a personal level, or you can kind of say, well, hang on a moment, how do I do that with the team of 20 people that I'm managing, or 200, or 2,000? Because when you can do these things at scale, they're hugely impactful and drive trust far quicker and allow the organization to move as a result. So I'm going to give you 4 examples. The first one is from my time at eBay. I ran a team based in Silicon Valley, but with people in Shanghai, in Zurich, in India, in all over the US, in London. And the question was, with these 500 people, how could we build intimacy at scale? I couldn't go around visiting them all. The leadership team weren't based in all those locations. We came up with this idea, the one-take wonder video. And I promise you, if there's one thing you take out of this, just try this if you've got a even slightly team based in different parts of the country or the world. And here's the deal. You get your camera out, you film a 4-minute video of yourself speaking direct to camera. You're only allowed to do one take. You host it, and it comes down a week later, a bit Snapchat style. Now, what does that do? It drives authenticity, because you're going to make mistakes. It's the very antithesis of the super polished internal comms memo that has nothing to do with the individual who sent it. It's all about being authentic. And I knew this was working when I visited the team in Shanghai. And I sat down with one of the junior analysts, and we're kind of getting into this model, and 2 minutes in, she starts kind of laughing. I'm like, what is it? She goes, Jody, it's really strange. I feel I know you really well because of those videos. And that, for me, was it, right? That was about how you'd be able to build a human connection with someone with a 4-minute video thousands of miles across the world. So that's one example. Second example, bold red heroes. If you're a leader of a team, whatever the scale, there's a moment in time, end of the year, end of the quarter, end of the OKRT, whatever it is you're running, where some portion of them are green, some portion of them are red. What are you going to do at that moment? Do you want the team to be disruptive next year? With the reds, if you've got no reds, you've got a different problem. If you've got reds, how are you going to engage with those team leaders and those teams? You want them to be disruptive. You need to make heroes out of some of the teams that have not hit their goals. They've given it everything. They've pivoted, they've worked hard, but for whatever reason, they haven't been able to close the gap in their goal. Strong suggestion here that you take time, you hero them, you promote, you high-five them. Other people will see that. It's about building reliability at scale, and it speaks volumes, not just the individual, but you as a leader in terms of building trust. That was the eBay phase. Then 3 years ago, I came back to be CEO of Photobox and Moonpig. And we produced lots of cards at Moonpig, and there was this kind of moment where it was taking the leadership team off-site, and we all do off-sites. And it's a real question of how do you want to show up? I was a new CEO. What did I want to do? Who was I going to be? I think there's this idea of the Bulletproof CEO, where you think you're the leader, you're the new leader, and it's like, I've got to prove everything about my credibility. I've got to be the best. I'm going to show how competent I am to run this organization. Actually, you can take a different tack. And so at the first 15 minutes with the top 20 people within the organization, I spent that time talking about how I'm dyslexic and how I've struggled educationally and initially professionally with anything to do with written reports or languages, totally hopeless. And I talked about that in a very vulnerable way with the team, and others of you will have done this. But in that environment, what it did was it encouraged probably 7 or 8 of the 15 people to equally share something that for them was kind of tough or made them vulnerable. By the end of that first 2-hour session, we'd created trust within this team through this vulnerability and through this intimacy. And my challenge is, in the end, you will always build trust. Go through enough tough times, have enough beers, over 2 years, you begin to trust the people around you. How can you accelerate and make that happen really fast? This is an example if you're kicking stuff off. And then finally, and this relates back to some of the stuff you've seen earlier, and you've heard from Slack and a number of other people, the power of social tribes within the organization. I end up talking to other CEOs, to leaders, and I say, hey, do you use Slack? And they're like, it's my CTO's favorite tool. I'm like, actually, think about how you can use it throughout the organization. It's one of the easiest ways to build intimacy and engagement without having to create the all hands for the month and take time down. Just appearing there, heroing people, asking a few questions here or there, hugely valuable. And then the other thing that's worked really well is having that chat group. And I'm not sure this did come up earlier. With your team, where you make it okay to talk about really stupid things, right? It's okay to talk about cats and dogs and what you got up to at the weekend, and that can blur in with all the great strategic stuff and the goals that you're hitting. But we try and take ourselves so seriously that that kind of water cooler moment, that beer, doesn't happen. We set this up at eBay with the team was probably 12 people located all around the world. We still have that WhatsApp group running now. I probably get 15 or 20 WhatsApps every week from a group that has totally disbanded because of the high degree of trust we have there. So another super easy thing to do is just start a WhatsApp group if you're not on Slack within your organization. Seems to work incredibly effectively for building trust within that team. We would meet up, and it was like we'd just spent the previous week together rather than being apart from 3 months. So there's some ideas. What does that look like? How do you know it's working? So at Moonpig, meet Jessica. Jessica's one of our senior PMs. She runs all of the search algorithms, cross-sell algorithms for how we sell cards. Conversation with her and her team. She basically came and said, look, I love this organization. I love the role I've got. I love the trust that you have in me to make the bets on where we should take the next squad in terms of the next drive. What are the things that are going to drive value? She feels in control of that. No top-down pressure on what to do, what not to do, and she talked about trust. And for me, that's when you know it's working, when the organization is saying, I feel trusted to make decisions, bold or incremental, and I'm not being second-guessed. And that, for me, is like, OK, this is all working. All of these sort of bits of the puzzle are coming together to create leaders who are empowered to drive the organization. And then if I sort of come all the way back to Moonpig and talk about the disruption that we've done there and been able to do, one area where we've disrupted massively is, if you think, for those of you who know Moonpig well, we used to have a pig, right? We're Moonpig, but we don't have a pig anymore. It was a necessary evolution of the brand. But for that team to feel okay to say, we want to kill the pig, means that they got to feel that there's trust and that the organization believes in them and that we can take those bold steps to be disruptive. Secondly, we're in the process of a massive replatform. You know how painful these things are. Again, it's about the CTO, the CPO, and their teams feeling that we trust them and that that is in place that allows us to make these disruptive steps. And as a result of all of that, we just hit 100 million in revenue about 4 weeks ago. But more importantly, we've actually doubled the growth rate over the last 6 months. And that is a function of all of these steps around building trust, around culture, and of course the OKRs and the strategy. But I believe that's the magic sauce here that brings all of this together. So let me conclude. This is a formula that could be helpful for you. I think the challenge you can kind of ask yourself is, what bits am I really good at? Which bits am I not doing right now? It's not to say it's only about intimacy and self-orientation. You need credibility. You need reliability within the team. You can take that. I've given you 4 examples. You will have your own. It's a great conversation to have over coffee or back in the office with what are the things that have worked for you. And then I'm on a little bit of a crusade on this. In terms of this video conversation, I've had it now with a lot of different CEOs. And when you have these conversations, no one's talking about strategy. No one's talking about how you run your OKRs. They're all saying, how do I change the culture of my organization? How do I get it right? It's like an impossible task. And so these videos now are spreading. They're certainly, I've seen a lot of people around Old Street now doing them in their formats and more traditional companies. But I've got all the way through to apparently we now have them happening in Buckingham Palace with the chefs. So I'm pretty excited. I hope here that a few of you will take a couple of these ideas and use this to build trust within your organization. Thank you very much. Cheers.